And welcome to another post edition of Spits and Suds, a victory edition of Spits and Suds. You know what that means? Let's crack it. Oh, yeah, here we go. And we deserve a Sunday night chilly frosty tonight because it was chilly outside and the barn was rocking as the Stars are now 10-1 at home. Could we say that last year? No. But this year, the barns are rocking. We have ourselves home ice advantage when teams come in to the AAC. Good evening, everyone. I'm Gavin Spittle of 1053 The Fan. Thank you so much for making Spits and Suds your local Dallas Stars podcast. We truly appreciate it as we head into December and a beautiful weekend for your Dallas Stars. 4 points against Colorado and Winnipeg. Both are 4-point swings. That's a beautiful thing as the Stars edge out a absolute thriller against the Winnipeg Jets. Mason Marchment comes up massive in the third period. It was an absolutely beautiful game. 3-1 your final score. You know, if you like 6-5 games, I understand it. If you like situations where lots of scoring back and forth, I get it. But tonight was as pure of a hockey game as you're going to see, as far as both teams battling for puck possession. Lots of work in the corners. Both teams, especially in the third period, very territorial, making sure that they don't make mistakes. So it was fascinating to watch. It was kind of a game of cat and mouse. You also had two of the top goaltenders in the world going at it. This time, Jake Oettinger comes up on top, although, my goodness, the Stars easily would have won this game if it wasn't for Connor Hellebuyck. So let's spend a couple of minutes breaking it down and give you my thoughts, as well as we'll take some of your Twitter/X questions, which you guys are so awesome as far as you with your feedback. So Winnipeg's strategy, I absolutely love. They are a deep forechecking team. And you know why they are so deep as far as the forecheck and take that risk as far as sending their forwards in and pinching defensively and trying to cause you to make mistakes? It's because they have Connor Hellebuyck. And you saw tonight how many breakouts the Stars had. So someone was asking about the Winnipeg strategy, and I did some thinking about it. And for those Stars fans that might not be familiar, let me just tell you a good comparison. It's like an all-out blitz or sending 4 or 5 players as far as going after your quarterback. Now, when you can release the ball quickly, you'll find those open receivers, and those open receivers will have space because the safeties have to then cover the receivers or they have to make key tackles. The reward for the defense is that you can force sacks, you could force turnovers. Well, it's the same thing in the hockey game. So therefore, when you watch tonight's game, you could see how intense the forecheck is of the Winnipeg Jets. In game one between these two teams, that forecheck caused lots of issues for the Dallas Stars. Same was the case for most of the game tonight. I would say the first 2 periods, specifically the second period, which I thought Winnipeg controlled. However, with that, you notice the Stars, once they got past that blue line, how much open ice they had and the ability to use the speed, get some breakouts. You saw some breakaways. And why does that happen? Once again, you break that forecheck and there are so many Jets cramming up against you, it opens up space. And I thought for the most part, the Stars tried their best to take care of those opportunities. I mean, remember at the end of the first period, Hintz should have had a goal. Hellebuyck stops him with time expiring. Nils Lundqvist with a terrific pass to end or toward the end of the second period. Could have been another goal. Stopped once again by Hellebuyck. He was just unbelievable. I mean, you think of Team USA in the Four Nations tournament, well, you have Connor Hellebuyck as your number 1 and Jake Oettinger as your number 2. Oh, you are in pretty good shape. And that goal by Mason Marchment to end the game, you talk about special. First let's go back. because how did Mason Marchment have that space? It was a mid-ice hit up against the boards against Nito Niederreiter. Niederreiter certainly not happy about that physicality, kind of swipes back, but then goes into the offensive zone, forgets about Marchment. Marchment kind of loops around, gets that pass, and then just up against Josh Morrissey. Morrissey is a smaller defender, and Mason Marchment used that to his advantage. Although I cannot blame Morrissey. I cannot blame Connor Hellebuck on that. That was all Mason Marchment. That's one of the prettiest goals you'll see as far as NHL's. Easily should make the top 10 on NHL Network and other hockey lists. So two things he did, as I just mentioned, used his body against Josh Morrissey. And the other thing, the normal way you do the backhand is you're going to loop on that backhand and then lift. But Mason Marchment, and Pete DeBoer said this after the game, is probably one of three players on this Stars team. He mentioned Matt Duchene and Rope Hintz, two others that can do this. Similar to what you see with NHL players where they're about to take the wrist shot and they pull it in. And just that slight movement can throw off a goaltender as far as pulling it in towards you and then snapping it. Mason Marchment did that with a backhand. It just wasn't a backhand where he loops. He actually pulled the backhand more towards him and then roofed it. I don't think it fooled Hellebuck, but I think it disguised the puck a little bit more. Also had that natural screen from Morrissey, and that was the deciding goal in the game. And let's also talk about that first goal, how pretty it was from Wyatt Johnston. Once again, open space, odd man breakout, Stars take advantage. So I think both teams played really well. And let's stick tap the Winnipeg Jets. Yeah, we focus on the Stars here, but you have to understand, Winnipeg is coming off a 10-game road trip. Not to mention, this is their sixth game on the Winnipeg, as far as Winnipeg Jets are concerned. A tough loss in Vegas the other night. So when you look at it, you really didn't see maybe the last couple of minutes of the game where Jake Oettinger did come up big, but you didn't necessarily see a tired Jets team, and that's usually what you see. That's a long road trip. 10 days is a long time to be on the road, and I thought Winnipeg played really, really well. I thought they deserved a point in this game. I thought this game was going to overtime, but instead, that late game heroics by Mason Marchment, that individual effort, propels the Stars to a big win. You guys had some terrific questions tonight, so let's get to them. I love it. Absolutely love it when you get back to us. Evan White says, quality win against the Jets team that's starting to come down to earth. They are, but I still would say they're going to be in this Central Division race to the end. Marchment is unbelievable. How can we bottle his confidence and distribute it to the rest of the team? Also, random question, why does Wyatt Johnston wear number 53? Seems random to me. I'll investigate the 53 for you, Evan, as far as why he wears 53. As far as Mason Marchment, I think it's really important for Stars fans to take a step back. And when you talk about the confidence of Mason Marchment, you need to talk about what Matt Duchene has brought to this team. Very honored to be on Winnipeg radio this morning, talking with our friend Connor Harabchek and previewing that matchup. And one of the things that we were talking about was the reemergence, and I use the term reemergence, not emergence, of Tyler Seguin and Mason Marchment. Remember, that first year that Mason Marchment signed, he had that first big game against Nashville. But when you looked at that first year of Mason Marchment, you looked at a bad contract. When you looked at Tyler Seguin, you were saying, I think we paid for what Seguin has done rather than what he is going to do. Then comes Matt Duchene. We're no longer talking about Tyler Seguin's contract. We're no longer talking about Mason Marchment and dumb penalties, or should I say penalties that shouldn't happen. I want to be fair in that respect. And we're no longer talking about a bad unrestricted free agent signing in Mason Marchment? Was it a fluke what he did in Florida before he was signed? Was he a one-year wonder? Because Mason Marchment was kind of well-traveled. Toronto and then Florida had the one big year and then becomes an unrestricted free agent, and Jim Nill scoops him up in Dallas. So let's go back, and then we see the emergence of Matt Duchene and what it's been able to do. And when we talk about Mason Marchment's confidence, Evan, we're talking about what Matt Duchene has done to that line. But I agree with you. Mason Marchment has been absolutely terrific for this team, scoring his 10th goal. And I'll get you that answer on why Wyatt Johnston wears number 53. The Thack Man, always such a dedicated Spits and Suds follower. Truly appreciate it, my man. Can't wait to see you soon. He says, I will admit I was concerned when Otter let in the early goal, but he shut it down afterwards, and the right team won by the aggressiveness of the Stars. I think we have to understand that Jake Oettinger is going to let in goals. I just want you guys to look at the whole picture. You know, one of the things that Wayne Gretzky said about Grant Fuhrer, and I'm not going to get this quote completely right, so I'm going to paraphrase, but Wayne Gretzky said about his goaltender, Grant Fuhrer, if they scored 4 on Grant Fuhrer, he would allow us to score 5 and win the game. In other words, he would shut the game down when the game mattered most. And that's what Jake Oettinger did. Also understand that first goal was a tip. I'm not saying Jake Oettinger, of course, he wants every goal back, but tip shots are so tough because in goaltending, it's all about angle and it's all about angle awareness. And Jake Oettinger was there, but it's very, very tough to stop tip shots, especially high tip shots. That was a floater that was tipped down. So little difficult, and it becomes a bouncing puck, so it can go anywhere. So it does slip through. And I think that was I'm not going to blame that, should I say, on Oettinger as much as I'm going to say great tip by Winnipeg. But yeah, I mean, kudos to Jake. Came up big tonight, only allowing 1 goal. That's impressive. We'll see Casey DeSmith probably tomorrow night. Likely tomorrow night after Jake Ottinger's played the last 2. We need a strong game for Casey DeSmith, and we'll get to Utah in just a second. Christopher Fajardi says, you have to beat quality teams. The Stars did that with Colorado and the Jets. Just have to clean it up against the bad ones. That Marchment goal was filthy. And I rewatched it many times because it was so good. Let's get after it in Utah and clean up the power play, please. Okay, let's get to Utah for just a second. This win goes away unless you take care of business. And Utah is a very good team. Utah is a dangerous team that has dealt with injuries, and that's why they're mid-pack. Understand, it's the equivalent, and I don't want to say they're better or equal to Miro Heiskanen or Esa Lindell, but Utah has lost their top 2 defensemen. Imagine the Stars losing 2 of their top 4 defensemen. In Utah, they lost Marino and they lost, I can't think of his name. Sorry. I will get that name for you. But the fact is, losing 2 of your top defensemen, that's really, really tough. So have to take care of business. It is a tough back-to-back. And, 3 Central Division opponents in a row. And then you have the LA Kings, who are playing really well right now. You have them on Wednesday night. So a couple of tests. That Utah defenseman that didn't come to my mind right away. This is the thing about recording the podcast. We can't say stop and let me insert the name Sean Dursey, but that's who I was thinking of. Sean Dursey, very underrated as far as defenseman in this league. So, yeah, mentioning the power play, that's going to be kind of disguised as far as this victory. And Pete DeBoer, after the game, mentioned the following. He thought it was better than what the 0 for 5 said. He thought there was good puck movement. He felt as though that Hellebuck kind of prevented them from scoring, and they had some chances, including the Rupe Hintz breakaway. That said, listen, as Bill Parcells, you are what the score says you are, and the score says you won 3-1. but also the analytics says that you are 0 for 5 tonight, and you have to take advantage of that. I'm glad Rope Hintz scored at the end, but Rope Hintz has to at least put that on net. One of the things when you're playing the best goalie in the world is you are picking spots that are so minute. That's why you saw so many misses by the Stars. You just can't throw it on net. You'd love to do that. But remember the other night on Friday night, that first goal by Colorado, and it was a bouncing puck that Georgiev couldn't really handle, and it resulted in a Tyler Seguin one-timer to put it in for the first goal of the game. Yeah, that's just not going to happen, or is unlikely to happen against Hellebuck. So I understand why you're trying to pick your corners, but Rupe Hintz at least has to get that breakaway on net. Stars had their chances and just, couldn't make it happen. But that two-man advantage as well, you cannot take a holding the stick penalty. And that was tough as well. That's where the game could have changed. Having a two-man advantage for at least a minute and a half, and you failed on that opportunity. Not only that, you put the Jets on the power play. So you need to get better, and hopefully they'll be better tomorrow night against Utah. Okay, let's see. Howie Hay checks in again. Love the energy at the start. Felt like a playoff game throughout. Mush needs to hit up Vegas. He can't miss. Well, I'm not sure they have gambling in Utah yet. I thought the game was just good hockey and great goaltending on both ends. Is this the best USA has ever been at goalie? Whew. That is a tough one. The U.S. has had some really good goalies. In fact, I'm going to throw Mike Richter into the mix and how good he was with Team USA. Tim Thomas played for Team USA. There have been some really, really good ones over the years. But yeah, Hellebuck and Oettinger is certainly the formidable tandem. And I think of the four nations, I think it is the best goaltending tandem. And I think it should put the USA as the favorite heading in. I know Team Canada is stacked. I mean, they're all stacked. Let's be honest. Any of these teams can beat any of these teams. But as I mentioned, when talking to Connor, giving this Connor Hrabchek of Winnipeg Sports Talk, talking about this in the preview. Isn't it awesome that we're not talking about an all-star break and we don't pay attention to that game? And yeah, it's nice to have all-stars, but think about how much anticipation there is for Wednesday nights reveals of these four nations and who's going to be on the team. Will Jason Robertson make this team? Will he slide in? Doesn't look like Matt Duchene will be on Team Canada, but he probably should be, in my opinion, with the way Matt Duchene's playing this year. But they are so stacked at forward. I mean, look at it. Connor Bedard might not even make this team. But the fact that we're debating who should be on this team and doing special shows as far as who should represent USA, Canada, Finland, Sweden. There is so much chatter about this Four Nations tournament, not just with us in podcast or sports talk land, but with the players themselves and their anticipation of will they make this team or not. Watching a terrific interview with Devin Taves last night on After Hours or Hockey Night in Canada and his excitement, but he says, I don't want to get ahead of us. Right now, I'm representing the Colorado Avalanche, but what an honor to put Team Canada across my chest. The NHL has hit upon something absolutely mammoth in this Four Nations Cup. So, yeah, I would have to say it's certainly among the tops as far as USA has ever been at goaltending. It certainly is special. And continue to mention it because the NAHL is based right here in Dallas, their corporate offices. And obviously we have a team in the Brahmas that play in North Richland Hills. And we have a team in Shreveport and the Shreveport Mudbugs, a very historic team, and they're all over the nation. And is it the same as the CHL or the USHL or the Western Hockey League or Ontario Hockey League or the Quebec Junior Hockey League? No, it probably is not the same category, but there were a lot of these players that go to from NAHL onto college hockey. Connor Hellebuck played for the Odessa Jackalopes. So we'll just continue to say that because it is a nice Texas tie. Robbie G, the power play, discuss. I don't know what else to say, Robbie. The team won, but 0 for 5. It's just that would have been the story if Winnipeg picked up 2 points. But this is going to be disguised based on Jake Ottinger's goaltending, based on Mason Marchment's sweet backhand to win the game, based on 4 points over the weekend. But you have to be better on the power play. And I understand what Pete DeBoer is saying as far as you're facing Connor Hellebuck, but you have to, that basically was one of the deciding factors as far as why this game got close. Think about it. 1 out of 5 wins you that game. Wyatt Johnston, number 53, is elite. 2 games ago, the sky was falling. Now we're back. Hockey's going to be like that sometimes. Yeah, they are back, but if they pull a Chicago against Utah tomorrow night, we'll be on tomorrow night after the game talking about the same as we talked about with Chicago as far as a letdown. Can't win every game. You cannot win every game. Tomorrow night's going to be tough. It's a back-to-back. You're playing your backup goaltender. But at the same time, would be nice to pull out a 2 points your first time in Utah. JLux 007, can we decline penalties just like in football? No, serious question this time around. You would never want to do that. Just happy with the solid win against the quality team. Go Stars. You know, it's amazing to think that we would decline penalties, but clearly, for some reason, they're better 5-on-5. And once again, Winnipeg had some chances shorthanded as well. So not only are you 0 for 5, you needed your goalie to make some key stops on shorthanded opportunities. So I would just hate for this season to be determined based on a power play that lost you last season. We could talk about the Stars being tired in the Western Conference Finals, which I think was fair. Edmonton with an easier road than playing the defending Stanley Cup champions in Vegas and then playing the year before defending Stanley Cup champions in Colorado. But what we forget to mention is how woeful that power play was against Edmonton. And that, to me, was the key factor in that series. They could not score on the power play. Maybe it's the absence of Joe Pavelski and what he brought as far as the high tip ability, and also Joe Pavelski playing bigger than his actual size in front of the net, knowing how to set those key screens. Maybe that's the factor, and they haven't been able to replace that. You'll notice that Mason Marchment is now on the second power play unit to equal that first power play unit with Jamie Benn as far as trying to set key screens in front of the goaltender. Michael Moore checks in. Have we found out D-lines now until Liam Bichel is ready? If so, what do we do about Dumba and Smith? I mean, we have them on the team, and there's a good chance we might see Dumba or Smith tomorrow night. How about Jake living up to the new contract, not being a Swayman situation? Let me stop there and just say the Jeremy Swayman situation did not play all of preseason. Jeremy Swayman is playing much better as of late. And I think you can call into questions Boston's defense as opposed to years past. Boston is seriously down. They're letting up more key opportunities. So I think that, yes, the goaltender has to take the brunt of the blame, but let's just hold on Jeremy Swayman, because I would say the same about let's hold on Jake Ottinger last year. And I compared Jake Ottinger's last year to Connor Hellebuck's year pre-COVID, where Connor Hellebuck had a real tough year, and then he goes on to win the Vezina. So goaltenders can have down years, but can bounce back strong. So I just wanted to throw that in. Michael Moore continues. Question: Stars tried to change lines on a Jake cover, but wasn't allowed. Do we know why? Did they take too long? That's an interesting question. Line changes, you're going to get caught every once in a while. That's a situation that sometimes, yes, take too long getting off the ice. Sometimes you can't move fast enough. Sometimes you get a whistle. In that case, yeah, if you take too long and if the bench was warned, now the home team gets the last change, then sometimes they're going to say you're holding on the ice. And coaches aren't going to like it, but they need to keep the game moving along. Crow Wi-Fi, Marchment has to get the NHL #1 star of the week. Ron from Tyler, Texas. I mean, he'll certainly be in the running. He's having a terrific year. And stick tap to Mason Marchment. Listen, that line overall is doing great. And it's great to see Wyatt Johnston reemerge, hitting a lot of posts. And Pete DeBoer said on the pregame that maybe that got in a little bit in his head after hitting all those posts and then, struggled for a few games. But Wyatt Johnston is back, and that is going to make that whole line work. The other thing I wanted to mention about Jason Robertson, and he does it several times, I absolutely love it, is the up pass to Jason Robertson. He's right at the line, and his back is turned to the defenseman. And the skill set of Jason Robertson, as he's possessing the puck, to basically spin around the defenseman. And at that point, not only is he ahead of the defenseman, but he's shielding the defenseman. He did that once tonight. Mason Marchment's also really good about that. Using your body to an advantage. The Stars aren't the largest team. You know who also is good at that? Logan Stankoven. And hopefully we'll see Logan Stankoven back in the lineup soon, because I think that will also help the power play and also help the offense. But we have to give stick taps where stick taps are due, and absolutely a terrific effort from the Stars. Listen, the reality is you won the game. You beat the first place team. You beat Colorado. You beat Minnesota on the road. So the Stars, as of late, I know it was a dud in Chicago, but they're playing really well against the Central Division. And I think that's going to pay dividends as the season moves along. Let's give an update, of course, to a couple things. Not only are the Stars now 10-1, but man, Jake Oettinger is impressive at home. That goals against average down to 2.38. That save percentage is up to 915. And I bring that up because in 210 games played, his career goals against average is 2.49, and the save percentage is 913. And to me, that is a great analytic barometer to look at. Check the goaltender's career stats and then look at the season they're currently having. And if the goals against and the save percentage is higher than the average in the career, that is a terrific sign. And Jake Oettinger certainly is putting forth an unbelievable effort. Let's hope that Casey Smith can have a bounce back game, because it has not been great for Casey Smith lately. But you know what? Hopefully he can bring back what he did in the regular season, where he was earning more playing time in net. So where do the Stars stand? Up to 3 points, 2 points. They spread out over the weekend to Colorado, which is in 4th place. So the Avalanche sit at 26 points. The Stars, 3rd place at 30, gaining some ground. As of right now, Minnesota takes the lead. What a surprise they've been in the Central Division. They've won 3 in a row. Winnipeg has lost 3 in a row. They're tied up on points, but Minnesota with the higher winning percentage. So 36 points for Minnesota, 36 points for Winnipeg as we tape this podcast. So they are tops in the Central, and the Stars 6 points behind both. As far as wild card, long way to go. But just in case you're wondering, because we all keep an eye on the wild card situation. So as I mentioned, the Stars with 30 points. How does that compare as far as the 2 wild card teams? Well, you know what? This is how close the Western Conference is. It truly is a gauntlet, folks. The Stars, as I mentioned, at 30 points. Both the first-ranked Edmonton Oilers and the second-ranked wild card team, the Calgary Flames, both sit at 28 points. So the Stars with just 2-point separation, which is really, really close in the West. We'll be back on tomorrow night with another edition of Spits and Suds, and we will see how they play in Utah and also get your thoughts tomorrow night after the game as we continue to roll on in Spits and Suds and end this wonderful 2024 campaign of Spits and Suds. I'm Gavin Spittle of 105.3 The Fan. Stick tap to our producer, Gregory Finley, for always being there and producing this fine podcast. And stick tap to you for the feedback tonight, the questions, the comments. You guys always come to the table. You guys never let me down. You never have down nights. Absolutely love you, and we will talk to you tomorrow with another edition of Spits and Suds after the Utah game. Have a great day, everyone.